This is White Horse Hills. It's first thing in the morning. As you might see in a minute or now, it's a terrible day. It's thickly overcast, it's very misty, it's pouring with rain, it's blowing a gale, and I've got 16 k's to walk in it. Mount Wells is the next shelter. It's an old fire station, which makes life a little bit interesting because it's totally different to all the other shelters. I'm going to try and get an early start. The sooner I get started, the sooner I get finished. Doubt if there'll be much filming today, it's just too bloody wet. We'll see. Well, it's 8:30 and I've just set off. It's the earliest I've started. It's a bit black and bleak around here. You can see it's obviously just experienced either a burn off or a bushfire. And in typical fashion, as we all start off, Tyler just left before me, coated out in wet weather gear, the sun comes out. Let's hope it stays out. Point today, it's the top of White Horse Hills. On a good day you could see Boddington Gold Mine, but today's not a good day. Although watching the clouds and the rain bands sweep in is pretty special. There's another one of those old firefighting water tanks, no longer used. That's the third one on this trip. I'm just over 8 k's in and making reasonably good time. Bella is noticeably lighter today, and for the first time since Sullivan's Rock resupply, I've managed to get everything inside the bag, so there's nothing hanging off the outside. This of course is making me much more streamlined, so I'm cutting through the air a lot faster. This extra speed is giving me better downforce, so my shoes are gripping the slippery logs and rocks better. Those two things combined with the better power to weight ratio means that I'm noticeably faster on the track. I'm nearly there. 1 kilometre to go. Mount Wells Shelter is an old fire tower lookout situated right on the top of a mountain. So after 15 k's of slog in the rain, I now have to climb a mountain. Well, this is Mount Wells Shelter. It's totally different to all the others. It's an old fire watch tower. If we go outside, what remains of the fire watch tower is there. We'll have a climb in a minute. And the actual shelter is this hut. It's the only one on the entire track that's got 4 walls. There's a room here for sleeping, I don't know, 3, maybe 4. And there's the old kitchen. Unfortunately, we're not allowed to light the fire. And then over on the side is a single suite, which of course I shall be taking. I'm the only one here at the minute. Tyler has in fact decided he's going to double hut. Slog from Whitehorse Hills. It rained most of the way. Despite my waterproof jacket, I'm soaking wet. And despite Bella's waterproof jacket, she's soaking wet. So I don't know what on earth is meant by waterproof. It's fortunate that we've got a meeting at Dwellingup on Friday. It will give me a chance, if nothing else, to get everything out and hopefully dry it out. I don't know what tonight's going to be like staying here. It's right on the top of a hill. It's very blowy, still very stormy, and Kerry from 2 nights ago very kindly informed us that the place was supposed to be haunted. So we'll look forward to that. Here is the view from halfway up the tower. I assume that's a telecom tower. Maybe the phone signal's really good here. Pity my batteries run out. On a good day it's probably beautiful up here, but today it's just bleak and cold and wet. There's the hut down there. It's about 5 in the afternoon. And so far nobody's turned up. I'm hoping to God that nobody does, quite frankly, because my initial plan to sleep in the small room is somewhat thwarted by reports in the logbook that A, it's drafty, B, the tin roof leaks, and C, a small snake lives underneath the bed in there. So I'm really hoping that nobody turns up and I can then occupy the big room, which is a lot more secure and probably marginally warmer. The weather outside is absolutely atrocious. I am freezing. I have no idea what the temperature is. It's not icy cold, but it's certainly down to about 4 or 5 degrees. I have successfully had a tub bath by heating up a lot of water, stripping off and washing myself from head to foot, which is making me feel a little better, but it's still bloody cold. Quite frankly, I can't wait to get to bed, wrapped up in my sleeping bag. Sun's starting to go down. I'm going to start my tea in a minute. Another half an hour or so should see if I'm here alone. Quite frankly, I can't wait to get off the top of this hill and down into something a little more sheltered and warmer tomorrow. It's 5:30 and I'm calling it. Shouldn't be anybody coming now. I've relocated. I've set up my sleeping bag, mat and everything here in the bigger room. It is slightly warmer, less drafty. If anybody else comes this late, they'll just have to put up with me snoring. That's their problem. I'm setting up in the kitchen area to start getting my tea. Going to be one of these bag things tonight. Roast chicken, that'll do. Nice and hot, that'll warm me up. Then into the sleeping bag and read my book and try and get some warmth into it. I don't doubt that Mount Wells can be a very nice place when it's fine and warm and sunny, but today it's just not. It's bleak, it's cold, and quite frankly I can't wait to leave it. Tea's cooking away there, feels a bit warm already. Just that little bit of heat in the room. Couple of bags there, roast chicken in one, mashed potato in the other, and then some noodles and soup in that one. Bob's by the window here. Since it's just me and him tonight, he's the only fella I've got to talk to. So we'll have a good old conversation later. We'll put the world to rights. 7:30, I've had my tea. I'm warm on the inside, it's still freezing outside, it's blowing a gale, it's pouring with rain. It's freezing in this room. It's nice and warm inside the sleeping bag, but the air I'm breathing outside is very cold. And this is where the CPAP comes into its own, because it has a little secret. Any CPAP users will know that its design is to deliver its user a constant stream of pressurized air. And that means that what I can do is I can take Bob and I can take the CPAP and I can tuck them in here. And I can close up the sleeping bag completely and bury myself within it, and the CPAP will act as a little periscope, feeding me constant air all night, so I'm breathing in warm air, breathing out warm air into the sleeping bag, and completely cozy. How cool is that? I've just checked on my tracker. It's 4 o'clock in the morning and I've actually had one of the best night's sleep in a long time. It's still raining outside. The wind's died down a little bit. The trouble is, when you go to sleep at 7:30 at night and get a good 8 hours sleep, simple maths tells you that you're going to be getting up early in the morning. There's no point me doing anything. It's pitch dark. It's still freezing cold, but I'm nice and cozy. All I can really do is lie here until it starts to get light. As soon as I can, I'm going to get up and get moving. The sooner I get off this hilltop, the better I'll be. Okay, it's morning. Not as early as I'd hoped. I actually went back to sleep. I'm just about to leave. It's 8 o'clock, so it's still the earliest I have ever left. The weather has cleared up a bit, although now that I'm back up in the tower, you might be able to see it's not all that good. You can see the rainbows sweeping in and the mist is filling the valleys. It's still very cold. It's time to head off. Weather is going to be very changeable today. It's bright blue sky over there. The sun is peeking through watery clouds here, but over there it's misty, rainy and horrible. It's to walking to Chadora today. It's 16 kilometers, but it's mostly downhill. The idea is to get there as quickly as I can so I can attempt to dry some stuff out. Him. He's looking at us through the bush. I just startled him. We'll approach slowly, see if we can get before he bounces off. Here he goes. I hear them in the bush and I can see flashes through the trees, but they're very flighty. Funny the things you find in the bush. Just to round everything off, it's hailing. Thanks. And finally, Chadora shelter comes into view. 16 k's today. I've done it at a fair old pace because it was mostly flat. My legs aren't going to thank me for it tomorrow. Contrary to my fears, my legs weren't stiff the next morning. At long last I was getting track fit. Not only that, but I woke to a beautiful day. There wasn't a cloud in the sky. Just perfect for a 22-kilometre hike into Dwellingup. This is Chadora shelter. Got here yesterday lunchtime. A fellow by the name of John was already here. Spent the afternoon and evening with him. Managed to get a fire going despite the wet conditions. Bunked down inside the shelter for a change with somebody else because I was just too lazy to go and put the tent up. That's where I slept. No CPAP last night, batteries are flat. Didn't have a good night at all. Couldn't get warm, couldn't sleep right. Consequently, I'm up early this morning. It's about 7 o'clock. Due to get into Dwellingup today. That's 20 k's away. Plan is to meet Jill halfway in at Inglehope Road. She will then take a considerable amount of weight off of me so that I can do the rest of the trip in relative ease. However, Bella is lighter, or as light as she'll ever be, because there's no food in her now. It may well be if I get going earlier, I might meet her later. That all depends on how I get on. Still, finish my breakfast, pack up, and get ready to go. It's 8:30 and I'm off. D-Day today, Dwellingup Day. Good food, family, a rest, and above all, a shower the first time in 2 weeks. Cannot wait. Just started out. It's a beautiful morning. There isn't a cloud in the sky. It's bright, bright blue. The birds are singing. It's glorious. Bella feels as light as a feather on my back today. I emptied out all of her food. There's Muscarica food in her. I've drained as much water as I dare. The batteries are empty, so there's no electrons running around, all of which makes her light and almost comfortable. Given that, I can put on a fairly brisk pace, and my proposed meeting with Jill at 12:30, 10k up the track, could be considerably further on. I'm 9k's in under 2 hours, which is pretty good going. That's what happens when you get a light pack and a flat track. This is where I was supposed to meet Jill. She was going to take the pack from me, but in typical fashion she's not here. You can see the road just up to my left. It's where she should have been. Although in fairness, I should say that I am 2 hours early. So that could explain her absence. So the only thing to do now is to carry on, get closer to Dwellingup, and either meet her in Dwellingup or somewhere closer to town. We have to pause here for just 1 second. It's at this point that I made a huge mistake, and I did not inform Jill of my change in plans. My usual method of communicating vital information to Jill, that is, me thinking about it and expecting her to read my mind, utterly failed us on this occasion. I can only assume it's because of the distance involved. She therefore did not get the message that I was not going to be at the meeting point. This was to have dire consequences further down the track, but we'll get to that later. Track gets a bit different from now for the next little while, in that I'm following these railway lines. Old logging tracks, I guess. But at least I can't get lost. I just read the guidebook a little bit further. It's actually not an old logging track. It's an old commercial line, Boddington to Dwellingup. Quite obviously no longer used. Very atmospheric, nostalgic even. Trees are noticeably different all of a sudden. Sydney blue gums rather than the jar and the Wandu we've been walking through for the last 2 weeks. Majestic. This is Billulmun siding, a picturesque little spot used by the Hotham Valley Railway. But a pretty little spot nonetheless. Must be nearing Dwellingup. Private property. That's the first private house I've seen since Mundaring 2 weeks ago. I'm in Dwellingup. Timber mill over there. Private properties over here. And a solid road. Within 800 metres of the finishing post, and I must admit I was kind of hoping there'd be somebody here to meet me, to take Bella off me to babysit for the last little bit, but apparently not. Having not received my telepathic message, Jill is of course exactly where she's supposed to be, back at the meeting place, aimlessly driving up and down the road, looking for somebody who left there 2 hours ago. Isn't that just typical? 20k walk this morning. It's taken me 5 hours, which isn't bad going. I get to the visitor centre, not only is there nobody here to meet me, but it's closed for maintenance. I have to ring a number to arrange to sign in. All that can be done later. I want something to eat and a rest. Here she is, just rolled up. By now Jill had given up on our proposed meeting and made her way into town, and we met right by the visitor centre, so all's well that ends well. But boy, was I in trouble. What message? Dwellingup is a beautiful little country town with a rich history in the timber cutting and fruit growing industries. It is also the base for the Hotham Valley Railway, whose tracks we were walking along earlier today. I had a well-earned rest here for 24 hours, enjoying fresh food and a hot shower. But something was wrong. The root of the problem lies in this sentence filmed almost absent-mindedly 24 hours earlier at the last shelter. Didn't have a good night at all. Couldn't get warm. Couldn't sleep right. Consequently, I'm up early this morning. I had the same symptoms in a warm, heated hotel room during the rest stay. I simply could not get warm, despite sweating under a blanket. Something was eating at me, and I should have paid it more attention. But I was eager to get back on the track, so I brushed it aside and prepared for the next leg. Join me again for part 7 as I continue south and reach the Murray River.